This right here is my favorite thing ever. The power of forgetting, how our brain shapes memory and survival.
A tragic mistake when the mind fails us.
On March 30th, 2007 in Virginia, USA, Lynn Balfour was leaving work when she received a phone call that changed her life forever. It was her babysitter asking, "Why didn't you drop off Bryce today?" Confused, Lynn replied, "What do you mean? He's with you." But he wasn't. In that horrifying moment, she ran to her car and found her 9-month-old son, Bryce, still strapped into his seat, lifeless. She had forgotten to drop him off that morning, leaving him in the scorching heat for hours. This tragic incident is not as rare as one might think. On average, 38 children die each year in the United States due to being forgotten in hot cars. The natural reaction is to assume these parents are negligent, but research suggests otherwise. These are often responsible, loving parents, yet their minds betray them in ways that seem unimaginable. But how does this happen? Understanding the brain, the science of forgetting. The human brain is an intricate machine designed for survival. Neuroscientists explain that our cognitive processes rely on 3 main components. Basal ganglia, the autopilot of the brain, responsible for routine actions. This is the part that helps us drive home without consciously thinking about every turn. Hippocampus, the memory center, responsible for recalling details and past experiences. Prefrontal cortex, the CEO of the brain, handling decision-making, problem-solving, and adapting to new situations. Under normal conditions, these systems work together seamlessly. However, when a person is under stress, sleep-deprived, or distracted, the prefrontal cortex and hippocampus become overwhelmed, allowing the basal ganglia to take over. This is what happened to Lynn. She was exhausted, worried about work, and engaged in a stressful phone call while driving. Her brain followed a familiar routine, driving straight to work as if her child was never in the car. This is why forgetting is not just a careless mistake. It's a system glitch in our cognitive processes. Is forgetting a design flaw or a survival tool? Forgetting often seems like a weakness, but studies show that it is, in fact, an essential function of the brain. Scientists argue that the ability to forget allows us to focus on important information while filtering out irrelevant details. Without it, our minds would be overwhelmed by an endless stream of memories. Consider Jill Price, the only scientifically documented case of highly superior autobiographical memory, HSAM. She remembers every single detail of her life since the age of 14, what she wore, what she ate, every conversation. At first glance, this might seem like a superpower. However, Jill describes it as a curse. Her mind is constantly flooded with memories, making it difficult to focus on the present or plan for the future. This reveals a surprising truth. Forgetting is not a defect. It is a necessity for mental well-being. The role of forgetting in society and history. Forgetting doesn't just happen at an individual level. It also plays a role in shaping history and collective memory. Throughout history, nations have strategically forgotten painful events to move forward. For example, after World War II, European nations that were once enemies, Germany, France, Britain, and Italy, quickly became allies. Despite millions of deaths and deep scars from the war, they chose to focus on rebuilding rather than dwelling on past animosities. This was not accidental. It was a form of collective amnesia that allowed these nations to forge new alliances. France, in particular, embraced this strategy through what historians call the Vichy syndrome. During the war, the French government collaborated with Nazi Germany. After the war, instead of confronting this dark chapter, France adopted an unspoken agreement. Let's forget. For decades, the role of France's collaboration was minimized in official narratives. However, as history has shown, what is forgotten is not truly erased. It can resurface unexpectedly. Can we control what we forget? Memory suppression is not always voluntary. Studies show that the brain has a built-in filtering mechanism known as the Zeigarnik effect. This psychological principle states that unfinished or unresolved events remain in our minds longer than completed ones. This concept has been used in truth and reconciliation commissions in countries recovering from historical traumas, such as South Africa's apartheid and Rwanda's genocide. The idea is that by openly acknowledging past atrocities, societies can gain closure. reducing the psychological burden of repressed memories. This is why some historians argue that the best way to make people forget is not to suppress information, but to flood them with it. When a topic is endlessly discussed, debated, and analyzed, it can lose its emotional intensity, making it easier to move on. Forgetting in artificial intelligence, machines learning to forget. Interestingly, forgetting is not just a human trait, it is also essential for artificial intelligence. When designing AI systems, researchers initially assumed that perfect memory would lead to better performance. However, they discovered that AI systems need to forget irrelevant data to function efficiently. For example, DeepMind, an AI research lab, experimented with machine learning models that played Atari video games. When these models were programmed to remember everything, they became overwhelmed and made poor decisions. Only when researchers introduced selective forgetting mechanisms did the AI improve, learning from past mistakes without overloading on unnecessary information. This proves that forgetting is not a flaw, it's an optimization strategy. The double-edged sword of forgetting. Forgetting can be both a blessing and a curse. It allows us to heal from trauma, focus on what matters, and move forward. But it can also be used as a tool of manipulation. Governments, institutions, and even individuals can shape narratives by controlling what is remembered and what is forgotten. So how do we navigate this? The answer is balance. We must recognize the power of forgetting, while ensuring that we control our memories, not the other way around. Conclusion: the art of forgetting wisely. Forgetting is an inevitable part of human existence. It helps us survive, shapes our identities, and even guides entire civilizations. Neuroscientists, historians, and AI researchers all agree. Forgetting is not a weakness, but a sophisticated mechanism for processing, prioritizing, and progressing. However, forgetting should be a personal choice, not a forced imposition. Whether at an individual level or a societal one, understanding what we forget and why we forget it is the key to truly mastering our memories. In the end, forgetting is both a weapon and a cure. The challenge lies in knowing when to let go and when to hold on.